I don't know what sort of virtual reality Councillor Charles lives in. He talks about economic growth and saying how the economic growth for this country is going to be greater than Germany. Can I just remind you that even this evening, the Bank of England has revised the economic growth down to 1.2%, the lowest for 9 years. So we're back in a position whereby when we started all this austerity, we were told we'd have a period of austerity, things would be wonderful. What's actually turned out, we're actually back into the same position as we were economically 9 years ago. The only problem we've got now is that going forward, we no longer have an economic cushion in any way to take us through the turmoil and the troubles that are going to come. The second economic reality that he wants to look at, it seems to me, is when they talk about the town. I think when you look at the town and look at the history of the town over the last few years, when you want to look at services that have been provided and continue to be provided, they've been continued to be provided by this Labour authority. If you look at the infrastructure in the town that isn't provided by the Labour authority, if you look at the absence of a county court, if you look at the absence of a magistrates court, if you look at the decline in terms of bus services, if you look at the reduction of services to elderly people and people who are disabled, if you look at the cuts in terms of shore staff and those sort of activities, you look at the potholes and you look at the latest tragedy, which is going to be the closing of our libraries. When you look at that and you see where the Tories are actually coming from in terms of the provision of services within the town, and then you compare them with what a Labour Party have managed to achieve, I would say that any fair person would look at that and say, well, okay, this is the Tory budget, which they talk about provision of services, which actually means cuts in services. The Tory government, when they first came in, they said there won't be any cuts to frontline services. We all said that was nonsense at the time. I was working for social services at the time and was told, no, there won't be any cuts. You accept these cuts, you accept these budgets, there won't be any cuts to frontline services. You look at the reduction in the police in Essex, 640 odd down compared between now and 2010. That's the reality. So I find the hypocrisy of the Tory party in terms of attempting to present themselves as a party which is going to preserve services in some way or another, when actually when you look at what their colleagues are doing in other agencies across Essex which are affecting the infrastructure of this town, how they can in any way pretend to be a party that is actually going to provide decent services when we know that the reality is quite different.